Well, I have a special offer. Christmas is coming, and I am going to send one of my books. I've got 5 of them. These two, Bury Me With My Pearls from a Mama, What Top Costs Teach Us for Breast Cancer Survivors, uh, Bare Feet to High Heels was my first book. Rhinestones on My Flip Flops. This is a really good book. But y'all know my heart book is Sweet Tea Secrets from the Deep Fried South. Now I'm going to put my email address in here, and any of these products, whatever the postage is, you pay the postage. How about that? I'll send you the book while supply lasts. And I've got some CDs too. Oh, yeah, this is just flat out comedy from Sirius XM. And here's a speech, my favorite speech. Don't throw tomatoes at my field of dreams. So email me at janejenkinsherlong@gmail.com. Pick one of these. I'll tell you what the postage is. And you could Venmo, you could PayPal, or whatever. And that would be a great gift for someone. I'll even autograph it. So here we go with our special guest today. This is going to be such a wonderful, iconic sharing time. I have had so many folks that love Jeannie and Jerry and Beaver and the whole crew ask me a gazillion times, please interview Beaver. I just have been so touched by the outpouring of love and concern and just wanting to give a virtual hug to this great guy. And so I'm going to bring in the one and only Jeannie's baby boy, call it that way, is Beaver. And we're just so tickled. Hey there.
How you doing?
Good. Thank you for this. Thank you for sharing you with all these wonderful folks that great day. They miss Jeannie and Jerry so much and miss learning about you. So hey, Beaver, you just got to catch us up. Tell me about you right now, where you are, what's going on.
Well, and to piggyback what you just said, I mean, people still reach out to me, her fans and friends, and her fans were her friends. So they constantly reach out to me and ask how things are going and tell me that they're still thinking about mom and they still watch her videos and things like that. So that's awesome. I mean, that's great. And her legacy certainly is living on. So, but no, I'm good. I'm real good. I live part of the time in Cumming, Georgia, and then part of the time in Asheville, North Carolina, which we love. And my youngest son, Gray, is working for me full time. So he's here in Cumming. And he lives with his girlfriend. He just bought a house. His contract got accepted last week. So he closes in January. So he's excited about that. He lives with his girlfriend and his dog, Waylon. And then Nisha and I, of course, have 2 dogs, Keno and Pepper. We got 2 little Frenchies. And then Ryder, my oldest son, and Caroline, they live in Fort Worth, Texas. And they just had a baby. They had a little baby boy, which would have made mom a great grandmother, which she would have been tickled over that. She'd probably already been to Texas already. We're going to go in a couple of weeks and finally see him. But his name is Henry Monroe Boline, and they're going to call him Hank. So give that boy a guitar right now and get him started.
I love that. See, my Caroline and your Ryder, they were at national speakers as youth leaders, and Caroline remembers Ryder so fondly. Well, I tell you, we all are just, and it's so sweet to see the legacy live on and to see the outpouring for you and your family.
Absolutely.
And of course, I tell you, I mean, I don't want to get terribly sad, but back to back with Jeannie and Jerry, man, that had to be a hit on your heart pretty hard.
That was a tough time. That really was. And, she was fine for a while, but, she got sick and fought it as she does and continued to work. And through what I knew was a lot of pain. And she, but she had that switch, as you know, with mom. She could be at death's door with a cold or a flu or whatever and just walk on the stage and it's like nothing's wrong. And then she gets off the stage and she goes and sleeps for 12 hours. But, that's just, mom was just built that way. And so it was tough. We miss Jerry too. I mean, and there's constant reminders, but the good thing about it is they're positive reminders. I mean, it's nothing but positivity. They left such a mark, and it has been tough, and there's not a day that goes by that we don't think of her. But we're doing exactly what she would want us to do, which is live on and have babies and dogs, and move on with your life. So
Yeah.
and keep laughing, which we all have a lot of laughter in our life, and that stems from her influence.
Yeah. And our culture seems to be lacking in laughter more and more. And what's funny, that's a whole different ball game, how people look at humor. And I was telling you, with Steve Rizzo, he was talking about that we absolutely have lost the ability to find the funny. And Jeannie was so masterful at that. And I think what I loved about Jeannie and Jerry is the way Jerry was so supportive of everything Jeannie did. And, she was so funny how she would tell stories of you growing up. I remember when I first met her, she would tell some dang funny stories. And then with Jerry, the left brain thing, and y'all just loved the fact that where she could spin a tale and just entertain people and bring joy.
Yeah.
And that's a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's easy to just think that Jerry was maybe a source for, the pound cake story or whatever, that he was but he was much more than that. I mean, he was her rock all those years, and she would bounce ideas off of him, and, and he would be, sometimes it would make her not so happy with him, but he'd be brutally honest, as Jerry always was. And, he'd say, I don't think that's going to work, when she just knew something was going to work. And she didn't always listen to him either. She, if she thought something was good, she was usually right. And usually she would just power through and do it. But she, he was instrumental in her life in a lot of ways, not just a source for the various stories.
Right. Yeah. I thought I would see Jerry, of course, he at the end had issues himself, and I miss seeing him, but he was always so fun at all these conventions. So I think what would be fun, when you think back at a story, it doesn't have to necessarily be about you growing up or anything in particular, but just that one story that when you hear it to this day, you think, gosh, that was a good one. Do you have one in particular? I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
Well, no, I mean, it's kind of an easy one for me, because the red Porsche story that mom told, it's every bit of it is almost embarrassingly for me, it's true. And, but, he handled that in a way that, only Jerry could do. And he got me. And that story really kind of encapsulated exactly how he was. I mean, he was a great stepfather to me. I could not have asked for a better situation growing up. And but no, Jerry was funny. I mean, he just was a different kind of funny. But he liked to have a good time. And he never said. He said one curse word the whole time I knew him.
Good heavens.
And it was when somebody almost ran into us on the highway one day when I was a teenager. But, the guy, he didn't drink. He was as straight-laced as they come. And so, but he would surprise you with his wit, because he really was funny. I mean, sometimes he didn't really, even when he wasn't trying to be funny, he was funny just because he and mom saw
that's the best kind of funny.
That's right. You know, he and mom couldn't see things really any differently on a lot of levels, but that works for, and it definitely worked for them. So
Yeah, we always laugh at when my husband's, it'll be every 6 months and we'll look at our phones or whatever, and we'll say something like, well, not 6 months from now, it's
yeah,
gonna be something else. But it's not a constant funny, but boy, when they come out with it, it's pretty dang good. It's entertaining too. So
absolutely.
I,
Yeah.
I think the story that really got to everybody was Jerry at the grocery store with the 7-Up cake story.
That was
That
probably her biggest one. Yeah.
goodness, and the spongy jumping, which was that one of
Yeah.
jumping off the bridge. And it's so funny. I don't know if you do this, but like I'll see something and I'll make a story out of it. I just
Mhm.
started working on another thing that happened, but of course by the time I'm finished with it, I got Thomas going, that's not what happened. I'm saying, I know, but
Yeah.
that's how I saw it, and it's funny.
Right. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I think that's the art of storytelling. I do.
Yeah.
So what's the number one question you get when people kind of pick your brain about growing up as a child in a household with someone just so incredibly creative and talented? What's the number one thing they ask?
Well, I think, the inclination is to think that the person that you see on stage is in a lot of ways, with mom, for instance, that was who she was, but she was a totally different, she was a mother, I mean, when she stepped off that stage, she took her mothering very seriously. And it's well documented, presented her with many challenges through the years because I was a little bit crazy when I was younger. So, she had to, and juggling her career and, being on the road constantly, you know, it, it took a different kind of mothering, really. And, and Jerry filled that void too when she was on the road. He really stepped in and guided me and made sure that I was taken care of. But, I think, but getting back to your question, I think people just say, well, it must have just been, you just must have been laughing the whole time when living in a house with her. But no, I mean, we were
Oh,
faced with the same challenges that all families are, and there were ups and downs. We were just lucky that there were a heck of a lot more ups than bad times, and
yeah.
especially towards the end with mom. I mean, she and I got some really, really quality time together and talked about stuff maybe that, we just never got around to talking about, and probably wouldn't have had she not been sick. But it was really kind of the best time between her and me that, we really became very strong and tight towards the end. And we always were close. And she was my biggest supporter, always. And even when I was acting a fool as a child, it was fine for her to discipline me, but don't you say something about Beaver, because she's going to always defend me. And I knew that she had my back all the way till the end. And that's a pretty cool thing that I don't think everybody has that.
Yeah, that's very true. That's so funny you say that because, in our household, we get that all the time. And my children go, oh, yeah, it's hilarious all the time. Your mom's
Yeah.
just a joke, but you got to put on that mama hat and, you got to do what mamas do. And,
Yeah.
you got to make that transition. And what you see is partially that's who you are, but that's another side of you. And I totally get that.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, and it's hard to be a child of someone who's just all the time, oh, you're Jeannie's son or you're, Jerry's stepson and all of that. But when I think, as you've said, you see a whole different element of just closeness. And I think it just takes maturity a lot of times when you can kind of see the gift that you can give each other and loving each other and having those special times. And right before Jeannie passed away, which we had absolutely no idea it was going to happen, 6 weeks after Jerry, because I saw you at the service, but then I think I saw you at National Speakers when Jeannie actually gave her very last speech.
That's right.
And you in the audience, and she referred to you so many times. And, that whole last performance thing has just been iconic. But I
Yeah.
remember being at y'all's home in Burlington. And I remember I had such a sweet moment with Jeannie because I know she's so talented. And what do you do when your spouse? I have no idea. I've known loss,
Yeah.
just my family and my mother and my sister and all that. But I remember grabbing her hand and I said, Jeannie, you just travel and love on your people and do what you do best and just give it your best. And I just remember that was such a connection that I loved. It was so special to me because I just felt like we just had a real special time of just, I loved her. I thought she was one of those incredibly talented, but beyond that, disciplined person with the way she could create material. And I've been listening to her over and over, traveling and pairing the YouTube with my car. And I would just stop and say, how did she do that? How in
Yeah.
the world? But it was like every single phrase and word was intentional. And
Yeah.
and she paused, the half laugh, the full laugh. Am I saying, am I reading that right? Because it seemed like it was, I always say Jeannie was scripted, but so natural when it was delivered, it came across as completely not scripted.
No, you're exactly right. And at her funeral, I touched on that because, yes, she had an incredible amount of natural ability and in the area of humor, but I know that she was a grinder, and I know how much work went into working on that timing to where when she gets on stage and she nails it, it seems effortless, but there was a lot of effort that went into it because I can't tell you. I mean, she would get up. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that growing up that I'd hear her walking around in the kitchen at 4 a.m. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and she's rehearsing and rehearsing. And really a lot of it was timing. Cause as you know, that's critical in what you guys do. And, she made it look effortless, but I wanted people to know that it wasn't. She just didn't roll out of bed and come up with that stuff and walk out on stage. I mean, it takes an incredible amount of practice and work. And as you said earlier, discipline to hone your craft and become what you guys are ultimately. And when you make it look effortless, that's when you've gotten there, right? It's the people don't need to necessarily know about the work. I just wanted to make sure they did because I think, I have heard people say, well, that's an easy job. I mean, she's just going up there and walking out on stage, making people laugh and leaving and getting a check. Well, no, a lot goes into it because there's plenty of people that could do that, what they're talking about, but they're not going to do it long because they're not going to have success because they don't put in the work. So,
Yeah.
she was a real grinder. She really was. Jerry was too. They would they wanted to make sure whatever they were going to do, they were going to do it right. And I think that they were successful at that.
You know what else impressed me about the way Jeannie and Jerry, they had a fun life, but they didn't have an over the top life.
No.
They, I was in, sadly, Tom passed away, Meredith.
Yeah.
And so when I left High Point, I drove to Burlington just because I knew I was so close. I couldn't not be that close and not just visit the family. Yeah. And I was going down Forestdale Drive. And, the house is just a split level, 60s brick. I mean, it's not like Jeannie and Jerry decided to build the Taj Mahal in Burlington. Right. I understand, too, how philanthropic Jeannie was. She was very giving to other people. And a lot of people didn't know that by design because Jeannie didn't want that to be all over the place. That can open so many doors that aren't healthy for people with the wrong intentions. But I understood she was very, very giving and did a whole lot of stuff people didn't know she did.
No doubt she did. She didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I think the most probably prominent thing or well-known thing, of course, was, the things that she and Jerry did for Elon University.
Right.
And that comes with their name being on certain parts of campus and things like that. So, but there were countless other things that she did for people that you would never know. And she actually is continuing to do that. Continuing,
Right.
she continues to help people. There are things that I'm doing now to kind of perpetuate her wishes, to make sure that certain people were taken care of. And I mean, it was just extremely important to her. And so, her, again, with her legacy, I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that, that her wishes are fulfilled. And we still have some things that we're doing, from scholarships and things like that, are in, I mean, that's in her name, her and Jerry's name. So I'm excited about it and glad to be a part of it.
I love that. I figured that, I assume that she's beyond, her life
Yeah.
and her legacy continues as Jerry's does too.
For a while, we're giving money to Auburn University, and of course, Jerry going to Duke, they were giving money to Duke, and they kind of one day realized that they're just a drop in the bucket, that their money, while it certainly doesn't hurt, it's hard to kind of see the results of or the impact of what they're doing. And they knew that a smaller school at the time, like Elon, that's something where they could see immediate results, and they could
Yeah.
actually, kind of put their hands on exactly what, the areas that they're helping. And I think that was a really big, important decision for both of them when they made it. And I think it was the right one.
Well, I
So,
was glad to hear you say that. I knew there was is Alamance Community College. Is that how you say it?
mhm.
And that is so. There's a lot to be said, about those little 2-year schools.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
God, they
Yeah.
really. There's. I mean, we got homes. My son finished Clemson, and he's just can't find the right job. And he's
Right.
it's been a challenge. And I mean, I got him involved with our community college just so to get a skill so he could, piggyback on his 4 year. So yeah, I agree with that. I think the more and more, it used to be kind of like, oh, I go to community college. And now people are proud that they can continue from that. And it's just a
Yeah.
real nurturing. I see that we have that, and I'm sure you all do too. So that's a great move. Of course,
Yeah.
they're both very ensconced in education. How long was Jeannie a PE teacher? I'm just curious about that.
He was teaching at Morgan Academy in Selma, Alabama when I was little. So she was
Mm.
teaching there. And then when we moved to North Carolina, I think, she was, I don't know that she kept teaching PE maybe until I was maybe 12 or 13. I'm not positive on that. And then I know her last incarnation as a teacher, I think she was just an English teacher in Durham. And then that's when they kind of made the switch when her parents passed away. They had a decision to make to either stay in what they were doing, because of course Jerry was a principal at an elementary school.
I did
Um,
not know that.
yes, she was teaching and he was a principal. And in fact, a funny story, that one day that I had off at my school and mom was on the road. So she said, well, you can just go to Jerry's school and you can just sit in on classes and, just we don't have anything else to do with you. So you can do that and you can see how Jerry's school. Well, I got sent to the principal's office that day. So one day I was at his school, he was not pleased. That was he was not very happy with me. That was like I think fourth grade, pretty sure. But
Oh,
yeah,
good
so
grief.
they were both in education, and you and they had a decision to make, and they made it, and they moved to Burlington and got involved with the propane gas business that her father had, and then the rest is history. But then Jerry, she had already started her speaking career when we lived in Durham, and Jerry had told her, listen, you need to stop teaching, because I think you can make a go of it in this speaking thing. And he was right. And so
Gosh, yes.
everything kind of fell into place. But we moved from Durham into that house in Burlington that and
Yeah.
So, and the lady that bought it is nice as she can be, and it's just but it's weird to ride by it. They
Oh,
painted it a
man.
different color and stuff, and I still go to Burlington every once in a while. So, but life moves on. So,
Oh, I know. It's going to move on whether you like it or not. So
yeah,
you got to get with it.
that's right.
Is there a memory that you have, Beaver, about an opportunity or a trip that, maybe Jeannie spoke somewhere and you got to tag along? I know you talked about how much you love going to Asheville to the Grove Park Inn, and we talked about that a little bit ago. But is there another couple of times where you could just sort of iconic?
Oh yeah, my junior year when I was at Elon, she had a speaking engagement in Hawaii, and it fell in line with. And she loved Hawaii; they loved Hawaii, and it fell in line with my spring break. And so, just she and I went for the week, and she only had the one speech, but she built the week around it. So she and I would hop in the car and drive the islands and stop at these little shacks and grab lunch. And I had never seen any place like that before in my life, of course. And we learned the hard way what those do not swim flags mean when we went out in the water anyway and about died, both of us, in about 3 feet of water too. And we had to drag each other out of the ocean and survived it, and we're laughing about it, but just the whole week was great. And I was old enough then to appreciate it too. Right. Now, I'd love to do it again, but it was a pretty special week, and she and I bonded a lot that week too. And it was just a great moment. And I think that was when it didn't necessarily, I don't think that was the first time she had been to Hawaii, but she knew she had said more than once that if she ever hit the lottery, she would just get a place on the beach somewhere on one of the Hawaiian Islands, and she'd be happy as a clam. Now, I think she'd go crazy after a while, because I know that she would have wanted to continue doing what she does. But and thankfully for the internet, which she always said she wishes had come along about 25 years earlier, that gave her the ability to touch a lot more people globally.
Oh, goodness. Yes.
We have people from other countries. We just had a guy from Australia reach out that wanted some DVDs and books and things. And, so the reach of the internet was something that none of us really realized it was going to be, obviously, what it is. But that was almost a second phase of her career, and it really kind of jump started her and spread her brand across the world, really. So it's been good. So
yeah, that's amazing. I know that there were times when Jeannie was so concerned about someone just hijacking something she had so worked hard on, and that actually helped her become so iconic internationally and worldly, in terms of so many different places across the country and across everywhere, every little speck. People would, it's so funny because the other day Thomas and I were we were in Florida, and he was at a conference, and I was having breakfast, and I remember I said something. Somebody says, "Well, don't you do humor?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, "But there's this tall woman." I said, "Honey, I know who that is."
Yeah.
And they said, "She's one of the funniest." And, even Al told me that her reach has gotten even stronger and larger since she's not been here, because people are, boy, Jeannie would love that. She's her humor, influence, and sales and things like that. And I had Tony on, and Tony was very respectful. And she just said it like this: as long as people are interested in enjoying Jeannie's books, CDs, you name it, we're going to have them available.
Yep.
And I think that's so smart.
Yep.
Absolutely. Because
Yep.
we need someone to help jog our mind, to laugh, to have levity, to make it through some tough things. And this world's not an easy place. We've got
That's
our
right.
challenges. So
Yep.
that's all good. So
Yeah, it is.
Hawaii, man,
Yeah,
that would be a
that was
dream.
her place. Yeah, she really loved it there, and Jerry did too. They loved their trips there together, and yeah, that was just kind of her special place. So
I know she told one really funny story about she and Tony having to sleep in a tube because some kind of funky thing, because they were either detained or they had to spend the night. And God,
yeah,
that was a hilarious story.
yeah, I remember the tube story vaguely. That's one that I can't. Either they were on a train or a bus or something, or yeah. But people like that one, and it's funny because even as many times as I heard all these stories, there were a lot of them. She had a pretty big body of work, and I'll forget about some of these. And her biggest story, and when she first started her career, was the baton story,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's a great story,
It's
and really kind of
hilarious.
it showcased her physical humor too when she told that story,
Oh,
and
man.
it was a hit, and to this day people bring that up. And I mean, we're talking that was 40, 50 years ago now. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and when she used to do the Mr. Congeniality pageants and
Oh,
she would
gosh.
call the guys out of the audience, I mean, that was
Oh,
gold.
yeah.
I mean,
And
that
then
was
they do the
mint.
quarter turns.
Yes. Yeah. And it was awesome. I mean, and when I was a member of Rotary down here, she came and spoke when she didn't have to, and she was sick. She wasn't as deep into it as obviously she became, but um, you know, I asked her because a lot of those guys were actually older than me, and they knew about her, and they wanted her to come speak at Rotary. And I thought about it. I'm like, man, she's not going to want to come. There's only, it's like 45 guys here, a few ladies, but I don't know if she's going to be real interested in that. And she, of course, said, of course I'm coming. Yeah, I'll do it. And she nailed it, but she used material there that I had never heard before, and so she wasn't scared to throw something new out there. But again, as we talked about, she doesn't really throw anything out there. By the time she decides to put it out there, she's putting a ton of work in it, and she knows it's going to be a winner.
Oh,
So,
man. Mhm.
so that was a lot of fun. That was a good memory.
How about your children? When, of course, I remember the interaction between the children when I've been around you all, and I thought it was so sweet. She sure loved those grandchildren. She
She
spoke
did.
to them so beautifully and just,
Yeah.
relished in that role of being a grandmama.
Yeah. Yeah. That was another thing that I talked about at the funeral was that, the things that if I had tried them or whatever, for instance, she was anti-tattoo, as you know. I mean, my whole life, she said, A, she'd kill me, or B, she'd write me out of the will if I ever got a tattoo. And she meant it. And then, and so I never did. And I have one now, of course, but Gray and Ryder's first tattoo he got a beaver on his butt. And when he told me about it, and unfortunately showed it to me, I said, "Why in the heck would you do that?" And he goes, "Well, because you're always on my ass." He said. And so I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, eventually she found out about his and Gray's. They each have a few tattoos. And she just said, "Well, the world's changing, Beaver." And I said, "Well, that is not how you would have acted if it was me." So yeah, she really did. She loved them, and she loved Tyler. I'm glad that she got to meet Nisha and Tyler, and the fact that they were able to come out to Las Vegas and see that last show was important. and she actually recognized them there, which was really sweet. And so, yeah, she saw a lot of those boys, and I think that she'd be really proud of how they're doing right now too.
When you think about your career and how you chose what you do, what influenced you to be in the profession you're in?
Well, I mean, I was in the restaurant business for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked that. I like the idea of that. But as you know, that's a tough job. I mean,
Oh
it's
boy, is it ever.
you're not going to be taking weekends off and things like
Mm-mm.
that. So, my father Bailey, he had started this window company in the '80s, and it had
Mm-hmm.
done well. And I had just had Ryder. Ryder was a month old when we packed up and moved to Georgia. And my thing was, I was kind of having a new baby. I did not want to be working 6.5 days a week, which was what I was working at the time. And it just started to get to me a little bit. And I think my father sensed that. And so he picked up the phone and said, "Hey, we got a good thing going down here. Let's do it." But, a lot of the things that, I have, and probably get this from Mom, I am comfortable speaking in public. And I know a lot of people aren't. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I did when I went to work for the company that I now own, Precision Millworks, my job was to get in front of customers and develop relationships and do presentations. And sometimes it's 5 guys, and sometimes it was 50 people. But you got to be good at what you're doing. You got to be able to relay the message, maybe make them laugh a little bit. So I think Mom influenced me big time on that, because that is something that I feel like I am pretty natural at. And so as that progressed, the company continued to grow, and it's a very good place right now. And it's, and now luckily, Gray has gotten involved in it. Ryder took another path, and he's doing very well. And so it's an exciting thing. It's not without its trials and tribulations, like any
Mm-hmm.
industry. We're in the building industry, so you're going to
Yeah.
have a downturn about every 5 to 7 years, and you just got to make sure you're equipped to weather it. And 2008 taught a lot of people a lot of valuable lessons.
Yeah.
That was a tough stretch for everybody.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, it's
So
just
that's where I
supply
am.
chain was crazy. That supply chain just killed, a lot of people were trying to do home renovations and fixing
Yep.
up, but if you couldn't get stuff, I mean, I released a book about then, and it was on a tanker ship in San Francisco Bay or something. I wanted to go out there and get a pirate to get my stuff.
Yeah.
Couldn't get to it. That
Yeah.
was so
Frustrating.
frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's nuts. So, so your company, and what's it called? Precision
Millworks.
Mill. So y'all incoming. That's the base of the business.
Yeah, we're incoming. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, are y'all wide open right now? Because so much
busy.
stuff is going. Whew,
yeah, it's been a real good run. I mean, strangely enough, in Georgia, unlike other pockets of the country, COVID shut the building industry down in some areas, but it did not here. And we had one of the biggest years we'd ever had in the teeth of COVID. And, and I remember when this COVID thing broke and everything started getting canceled, we had a meeting, because I said, look, we need to be prepared to start laying people off and, really circling the wagons, and let's make sure we can ride this thing out. Well, of course, who could have seen this coming? But it was one of the biggest years we ever had. It went bananas. And so since then, but then we had a supply chain problem in the construction business, and couldn't get glass, couldn't get screws, couldn't get whatever. And so, the challenges always come, but you just got to be ready for them. And I think that's what I referenced 2008. We're a better company because of the struggles that we had in 2008 through 2013. We didn't react quickly enough then, because it was hard to believe that it was just going to last that long. And by the time we realized it was a little late, so we had to scramble. So now we're more prepared than ever to do well and survive really, and keep our people employed and keep them with good careers. And so that's our
That's a
ultimate.
lot of responsibility. That's a lot. I mean, we just today, and I'm kind of glad the crew left. We're just one bathroom. The whole house is just upside down. And,
Right.
They had to go get more stuff. Thomas thought the pipes ran this way, they ran that way. And that's a whole nother problem. And, poor guy, it's a system, you have to, this one person has to do the tear out, and the other person has to come and do cabinets and sheetrock. And I mean, it all lined up, but it is, whoo, I knew it was going to be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be worth it in the end, but having people in your house all the time, it gets old pretty quick. It really does.
Oh, the dust. I mean, and all of that. But I mean, we've been in this house too long. It's time for us to. What was saddest thing to me was when, I mean, I got so sentimental because, I mean, I bathed my kids in the tub and we have memories and all that. And so I heard that saw, getting those little all-in-one shower units. And, of course, and the guy bringing it out in pieces. And he said, man, this is well made. They don't make them like this anymore. I thought, did you have to tell me that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's right.
I've gone my whole life and not known that, you just took out something amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's a very demanding business. It really is. And
it is. We manufacture windows, so we just take it from ground zero and build windows per order. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's we got a good system and it works.
So how far do y'all go outside of Cumming? Are you just mostly in the area, or are you southeast?
No, we're in about 44 states right now, but we only deliver on our trucks on the eastern half of the United States. The rest we freight. Like we freight to California and Arizona and Colorado, and so we sell to dealers, and we don't deal with the end consumer, which can be challenging because in the days of the internet now, everybody's an expert. So we kind of just want to remain a few layers away from the end consumer, but it works. It works for us. That's the way we go to market, I think, is ideal for what we do.
Yeah, I got to get some new windows in another place. I might be giving you a jingle. You
All
can
right.
give me some advice.
That's right. A guy.
All this is just so intentional. It just works out well.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I tell you the truth. When I just think back and reminisce about, whether Jeannie taught so many of us in this business with her amazing wit. I mean, you have to be naturally talented to do what she did. I mean, and a lot of people say, can you develop that? I think somewhat, but I think the level Jeannie had honed and polished the craft of comedy. And I can't say that. Elsa's don't say comedy, say humor. Right. She just could deliver. It was really almost like something you've got to be born with the ability to see the humor and deliver it like she did. Yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can take the skills that you saw her give and present in her way, and you've learned your way. I think it's incredible that you had the master teacher right there in your home. So you could take advantage of those skills in your own life and inherit that, so to speak. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been blessed, no doubt. I had to have 3 great parents, really, and all of them with their unique impact on me, and it's all been positive. I can't be any more lucky than that.
Yeah, to get a bonus dad. And let me ask you this, and I'm not trying to get personal, but is your father still alive?
He is. He actually just got married.
No way.
Yeah, he married his 4th wife, and he's out. He outlived the other 3. To be honest with you. So this fourth one, I told her, you better keep your head on a swivel because his record's, pretty strong. But no, he did. He's doing well. He lives here. He lives about a mile from me here, and splits time between here and Big Canoe, which is about 45 minutes here. Which she has a place there. They knew each other. They knew each other at Auburn back in the day, and kind of just circled back and met one another here recently, and it went well. So he's doing well. Health is good, and hopefully he's around for a long time.
What age person, if you don't mind my asking, how old is he?
He was a month younger than Mom, so he's 80. Yeah, Mom would have been 80. Yeah.
Yeah. How about that? And so
Yeah.
you get to enjoy that. That's awesome to have that in your life as well. It's really sad when your parents all gone. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not fun. Yeah, my we had some time in between, but still, you sort of feel like a little orphan, when they're not there anymore. Well, that's great. So, I've got an 83-year-old really close friend, and she married her high school sweetheart after her husband passed away and his wife passed away. And so I remember she called me and she said, this guy named Crawford's calling me. I said, he's shopping for a wife. She said, shut your mouth. They were married in 3 months.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. You don't sit there and twiddle your thumbs when you're getting up in age.
That's right. There's
you fish. You don't cut bait, man. You fish.
That's it.
You just don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm tickled for your dad. That's great. And I'm so glad that you live close to him.
Yeah. It's been good. I mean, how it happens. You lean on your parents for a long time, and then one day you don't even really realize it, and they're leaning on you. And so it's been rewarding. It's not always without a little frustration now and again, but that's just the way it's supposed to be. And it's been good. I see him 2-3 times a week, and now that Gray's back, Dad, has gotten to know Gray a little bit better since he's gotten back, and of course, getting to know Nisha. Nisha and I have been married. Will be 2 years. I think she's in there. We'll be 2 years this spring, right? Married. Yeah, she is confirming. Yes, 2 years.
I met her.
It feels like 6 months.
Tell her to get in the camera. I want to see her. I thought she was beautiful when I met her.
Come here.
Come on, darling.
Yeah, she's doing Christmas stuff.
Hey, gorgeous. Nice to see you.
She was wrapping presents and
we're having Christmas up in Asheville. So my son and his girlfriend are going to come up for Christmas, and then Gray and Katie are going to come up for New Year's. So we're kind of like staggering, so I just have to bring everything up at once, though.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, when those children get to be a certain age, what do? You know what I started doing? Rewrapping stuff they didn't like last year. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing stuff under the tree.
I have no idea.
That's right. Just give it to
I'm
somebody else.
done with that.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even take it with them. Oh, that's cute, and they just leave it. I mean, really?
Right.
I'm rewrapping that. I found a Bible Caroline was given at Clemson. I'm rewrapping that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gets to be tough when they get to be, they want money. It's like, okay,
yeah,
how boring. I got that. Well, good. Yeah, I met. Is it Keisha? Not Keisha.
Nisha.
I met her. Yeah, when I think it was when Jerry at his service.
Yeah,
and so God, that was it's hard to say goodbye to anybody that you care about, but that was just a beautiful service. And my heart was just butt on my, on the floor because I was so heart heavy for Jeannie. But of course, she's such a Southern lady and handled herself with great grace and charm, and just still Jeannie, even through all the sadness.
Yep. Absolutely.
But she with Jerry and it was, they didn't talk about it, but everybody knew Jerry was not in the house anymore. Yeah. And that Ronald Reagan long goodbye thing, that's just awful. Sometimes you don't know what's better for someone. My daddy just boom, gone, and suddenly. And then my mama, it was a slow thing. And
Yeah.
and there's no good way to say goodbye or leave this earth. It's hard.
No, it is. There were some kind of humorous moments. And of course, Mom would always try to see the humor in some of the things that Jerry would do as he was slipping further and further into, his fight with dementia. But, it became tough, and it was hard for her. It was really hard for her to make the decision that was probably should have been made a few years prior to when she did. She just didn't want to see. I mean, she loved him, and they were partners, and even though he wasn't right mentally, just him being around meant a lot to her, and it just broke her heart to have to ultimately make that decision. But it was something that had to be done just because, families deal with this all the time. I'm not telling anybody anything new, but, it's just, that's a hard decision to make, but it's the right decision pretty much every time.
When people that you love, like my mother-in-law went through it too with her, and when they become a danger to themselves and the stove is left on, my mother-in-law, as precious as she was, walking up and down the road with a nightgown and a pocketbook with the person sitter there, it's like, I tell people, I'll say, you don't want to think about it, but when when it's time.
And there were some people that had some things to say about it to Mom, like, why don't you just need to quit working. You just need to, concentrate full time on taking care of Jerry. Well, that wasn't going to work for her. I mean, she's just not wired that way. And she just said, if anybody thinks that I'm going to just quit working and just play bridge and go to the country club 2 nights a week in Burlington, North Carolina for the rest of my life, they don't know me. And Jerry wouldn't want that for me, because Jerry knows how much I enjoy this. And
that's exactly right.
And so, the decision, which we all were brought in on it, the lucky thing about it is that facility in Burlington is probably one of the best in the country. And
yes,
that was 3 miles from the house, and she could see him multiple times a week, and did. And every time I would come up, we'd pile in the car, and it was during COVID, so we'd have to stand outside his window. You couldn't have any contact with him. And, that made it really tough for her.
Oh gosh. Yes.
She couldn't even touch him, couldn't even enter the building. But, it just, everybody was going through it. Her situation was not unique, because there was a lot of people, going through the same thing. So, she found a way to just persevere. And of course, another blessing with COVID with her was the Back Porch series that she started, which she and Tony did not anticipate that being as well received at all. I mean, they just figured it was kill time. And all of a sudden they had a tiger by the tail, and that ended up being a really rewarding thing for Mom, because again, she wasn't feeling well, and the traveling was taking its toll. And so that allowed her to continue doing what she's doing, just another platform. Right. And she made a lot of new fans through that as well, because that spread. I mean, I still will get emails from business people that are pulled off YouTube because she and I have a different last name. They have no idea she's my mother. And I get these random emails with a video from YouTube, like, check this lady out. And I'll say, yeah, I know her. She's my mom. And it just blows their mind. I love that.
Hilarious.
It's a lot of fun. But.
That is so precious.
Yeah.
I love that, And I mean, even with me, I'll say, I know her. Oh, you don't. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just an honor to get to know Jeannie and meet you too, and your precious family. Y'all are all very blessed, and life can give us some heartache, but I think what you're doing is just what Jeannie would want you to do, as you mentioned. But just, you've got to keep moving forward, even in the worst of situations, for your own mental health and wealth and your brain, is to keep digging for some levity and some laughter, And Jeannie did that in the midst of Jerry not being with her and having dementia. And I mean, she was an iconic individual with what do you do when you can't, I remember one time I said, Jeannie, I said, Jeannie, sometimes the only answer is there are no answers.
Yeah.
There are no answers. And
Right.
she said, that is so true. There are just no answers. And you just try to do the next right thing. And that is the best of the answers. And that's what you've done. Yeah. And I appreciate it. We're coming up on the top of the hour, and I sure appreciate it. Is there anything you'd like to share with folks when we wind this down?
Well, just, and to finish up, I can't thank people enough for being so supportive. And it does make a difference when you reach out to me or to Tony and tell, maybe how they were in a dark time and mom helped them get through it, or just, hey, basically your mom made me laugh a lot, and it made a difference in my life. But when people say that, it's never received any other way but just with open arms and very much appreciated. And I'm just lucky to have been her son, and the benefits of that will go on throughout the rest of my life. And that's no small thing. So thank you. I guess, you can't thank people enough, really, with how supportive they've been. But just know that it doesn't go unnoticed.
That is so sweet. And thank you for continuing her legacy and all that you and your children and granddaddy. What are they calling you, granddaddy? Do you have a name?
They're going to call me Daddy Boy. That was my grandfather's name and my dad's name. And so I'm going to be Daddy Boy. And of course, Nisha, with her name being Nisha, she's going to go by Nini. So it works out very well.
Listen, she's way too gorgeous and young to be a grandmother. May I just say that?
I think she would tell you the same thing. But she's excited. We can't wait to go see that baby. We're going to go first weekend after New Year's. We're going to go see him. So.
Oh, well, I'm so happy for y'all. I think everybody's just thrilled that we got a chance to catch up and see how great you're doing and the legacy of both Jeannie and Jerry in your hearts and in your lives. And as you continue to carry on and remind all of us to keep people laughing. That's what Jeannie would say to us, right?
That's right. And I appreciate the opportunity, Jane. She thought the world of you. And,
oh Lord, I loved her. I miss her so much. Sometimes I just get so teary-eyed thinking about it's just a loss, Yeah. So,
we still talk to Norma and Patrick and all those people. They're pushing through too, and they're still going on. But I think that to a person, they would tell you that they value and had a great experience just being friends with my mother and business associates and whatever. So no, we're all out here still fighting the fight, just like everybody. So
we got to keep going.
Yep.
Thank you so much. This has been so delightful, and I've just loved it. And God bless you, and a very successful and prosperous 2024. Can you believe that?
God bless you, and Merry Christmas to everybody, and Happy New Year.